So, for those of you that know me, and for a few of you that probably don't, I'm going to let you in on a secret, which isn't really a secret. I'm a huge John Wick fan. John Wick, it lives in a world and a storytelling place that few characters do, which is why it quickly got four films and was looking at a fifth. There's so many different types of stories to tell within this world. We don't get a good look at the criminal underworld anymore because very few properties actually dive into it in a semi-realistic way. Now, of course, we can point out that John Wick doesn't live in a real world. It's somewhere between bullet time for Max Payne and a superhero movie, except that there's a lot of believable elements to it, and there's a deep understanding and quite a bit of lore that gets into the criminal mind and how an organization of this type would operate, which is why we got an amazing spin-off in the Continental breaking down how the hotels work and how the business itself is conducted. We also have some really keen insights into what's going to happen with how money is made and how it is generated. We also take a look at the next spinoff in the series, which is Ballerina, which it sounds like has had significant amount of extra work put into it and more of Chad's actual involvement than was originally planned. So when you hear something, especially something that's not so great about John Wick 5 and whether or not it's made, you kind of pay attention, especially if you're me. And if you've reached this point in the video, do me a small favor and reach down to the bottom there and click the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed, and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any future videos when it comes to this type of thing, or even an inspection of how Hollywood is going to try to survive over the next 5 years in a time when they've basically driven themselves out of business. But we'll get to that in another or several other videos. While you're down there as well, go ahead and hit the like button and be ready to ask some questions in the comments section because I have some questions myself. Let's take a look at the story that actually created this video today. And it's one of many that really kind of caught my eye. And as they started to roll out, I started to get more and more concerned that I'm not going to get this absolute thing that I absolutely want, which is another John Wick film. So let's take a look at the article from our not so much friends at Screen Rant. And while Screen Rant occasionally does some really great things and they hired some really great people, they also do some really ridiculous stuff that they really shouldn't do just to maintain their access. I'm not a fan of access media. I understand why they do what they do, but I don't think it's a good enough reason to compromise what they should be doing, actual journalism about the film industry and the films that are currently being made. But when it comes to this story by Max, I think that's how you say his name, Keanu Reeves shares a disappointing update at a potential return for John Wick 5. I restructured the headline. I often do that because I don't like the way some people put things. Regardless, in this story, Keanu Reeves provided an update on whether he thinks he will return for a potential John Wick 5, which has already kind of gotten the soft green light and has a script in process, from what I'm to understand. Reeves has appeared as the iconic assassin for four John Wick movies, even though he is seemingly killed off at the end of John Wick Chapter 4, which, of course, you and I did not believe. Of course, it was all a ruse. Fans desperately want Reeves to return for a proposed John Wick 5, which includes me, because, hey, I love the world. Are they tip top movies? No, but you're looking at a guy who absolutely loves the film Showgirls, especially in the unrated version. And now that I have the open matte version, I think I may love that film even more. But let's set Showgirls aside for another time. And if you're keenly interested, you can check out my friend Muff Movie Reviews and see my thoughts about it, since we did an actual episode on his channel about it. So apparently, in an interview with CBS News, Reeves admitted he doesn't think his knees can handle another John Wick movie. You can read his full comment below, right here. Well, I'm going to read it to you anyway, but it says, "My heart does, but my knees are saying right now, you can't do another John Wick." Well, get some therapy. There's a lot of great therapies out there for your knees. I'm telling you right now, Keanu, I think you can probably do it. I think you probably still surf, which means you could probably do another John Wick. But I wasn't done there. I had to go find other sources as they rolled out, and there were a few more, including the trade paper, which is one of three owned by Penske Media Group, which means basically all of the Hollywood rags, trades, whatever you want to call them, are actually controlled by one company now, with the exception of the Wrap, which is run by Sharon Waxman, which I wouldn't take to the bank for anything. But it looks like, if you look at the Variety article, they're all coming from the same place, a point of doubt for Keanu Reeves, which kind of bums me out because he's one of the driving forces that actually makes this kind of thing happen, in particular in this franchise. Keanu Reeves says, "My heart wants John Wick 5, but I don't know if my knees can do it right now." They're saying, I can't do another. Well, what are you saying, John? I should say Keanu, because it's really up to you. Let's look into this article and see if we can flesh out some more information. Of course, the first thing that I notice right off the bat is the fact that he is telling you he's going to be in Ballerina. This was something that was added recently, and for good reason. It's very difficult to have a film based on a hero without having the hero themselves, which is why I've speculated. That's why the Spider-Man Spider-Verse franchise has not actually landed and has actually failed most of the way through, with the exception of the first Venom movie. Everything else has been rather soft or a complete flop, and that even goes to Morbius. Sorry, for me, it's not Morbin time. But as far as John Wick 5 goes, that might depend on the health of Reeves's knees. Reeves's knees. Say that 3 times fast. Keanu said, "You can never say never. My knees right now are saying I can't do another John Wick. So my heart does, but I don't know if my knees can do it." John Wick Chapter 4 ended with John's presumable death after competing in a duel to free himself from the high table, which I guess presumably he did, or he actually did, not presumably. He did. Whether it's through death or through winning, which he did, he's free. So, how do you hide if you're free? Well, you go into hiding. You fake your own death. So John gets shot in the third round of the duel and seemingly dies on the steps of the Basilica. I don't know. I don't speak French. While seeing a vision of his late wife, Helen. Well, that's kind of a nice thing. The film then cuts to a final scene where Winston, Ian McShane, who I think is a brilliant actor in anything he's ever done, and the Bowery King, played by Lawrence Fishburne and close personal friend of Keanu Reeves, visiting John's gravestone. Or were they just keeping up appearances? It's hard to say. I think it was a matter of keeping up appearances, considering the dog makes an appearance, but I don't know. And it's supposedly not the first time he's played the never say never card. In fact, here, previous reference in an interview with Entertainment Weekly, he added that, I wouldn't do a John Wick film without Chad Stahelski. And I don't think anybody would want that to happen. I think Stahelski is basically the center of this John Wick universe and the high table and everything that goes along with it. And I think that the instinct for both Stahelski and the studios to stay involved in this property is very important for the future of Lionsgate. So we need to see how many more John Wick films we can get out of that, if not just wonderful spin-offs that seem to work in that world. He went on to say, "We'd have to see what that looked like. For me, it feels really right that John Wick finds peace." Well, sure, but maybe not as much peace as the fans were looking for. They were looking for a little less peace and just at least one more piece of action. At least, speaking for me, I can say that's true. And now we get to the ambiguous ending of chapter 4. Of course, it was ambiguous. You wanted to leave a little bit of room for him to return. And actually, Chad Stahelski spoke on the final end for John Wick for chapter 4, saying that they'd actually filmed and tested a different ending entirely. In that version, there was no question that John Wick had survived the events of the duel and kind of left it less open for interpretation, meaning that we would have definitely got a John Wick 5. Here, the ambiguity made it possible for Keanu Reeves to step away if he so chose, which I can completely understand, especially if we see good performance out of his return to the role in this new Ballerina project. In Stahelski's own words, he said, "We had a different ending. You can actually see John at the end of the movie. So it was clear that he was still alive. The audiences we tested with absolutely preferred the ambiguous ending, which I don't actually believe. I think all of us fans would have liked to believe we were going to get a fifth movie. And again, for Keanu's reasoning, I would imagine more ambiguous was better." In fact, I guess it was made very clear that Reeves' original preference to kill John Wick off for good, which was actually consistent with where Reeves seemed to be after the end of each film, completely exhausted, fully drained, and ready to be done with the character. Except that just a few months later, he would always seem to change his mind. Commenting further, one of the producers on the film basically says by the end, he's always like, I can't do this again. And we agree with him. The guy is just a shell of himself because he just goes off and goes for it. He was like, I want to be definitively killed at the end of this movie. We were like, you know, we'll leave a 10% little opening. And I'm glad that they did. Although, based on this new news, kind of bummed. It's quite possible 4 was it, and the ambiguous end will be a little bit less ambiguous. Well, at least we have one more crack at seeing John Wick in character and Keanu Reeves playing him in the film Ballerina, which is due in theaters June 6th of 2025. Well, at least I have something to look forward to this summer, and at least it's John Wick. And now we've reached the most important part of the video, audience participation. So, down in the comments section below, let me know, are you looking forward to potentially a John Wick 5? Are you looking forward to Ballerina? And would you want to see just one more entry in the epic story that is John Wick? Let me know those thoughts down in the comments section below. And as always, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, wash your hands because it's good hygiene. And until next time, see ya for real.